And thank you for that. That was, of course, the Channel 9 Orchestra playing our theme music there. Conducted, as always, by the great Jeff Harvey.
You're gone back in time. Is this like when a Vietnam vet has a relapse, but this is a Channel 9 vet?
Yeah, it's a bit like, remembering that time at Nui Dat. I used to see Jeff Harvey walking around the corridor always with a coffee cup that had something stronger in it.
Really?
Oh, yeah, we didn't mind it, old Jeff Harvey. Not that I even knew him personally. But, yes, that was our theme tune played by the Channel 9 Orchestra. This is the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour. I'm Sergio Paradise. And here is a bloke who is thinking very carefully of changing his name to Zipporah. It's Titus O'Reilly.
Now, we should get it right off the bat. We should say... Yes. Quick note, the Dane Swan gig's almost sold out now, so if you do want tickets to that, go to Yarraville Last. I'll put the link in the show notes, but it's almost sold out. So had a big piece in there on Sun this week, which... that
helped. Ticket sales.
So if you do want to go to that, I'd get onto it pretty quickly. The other thing is, we've got a brand new, the TitusO'Reilly.com, the website that sits on the interwebs.
Yes.
On the information superhighway. Where you can get a lot of our written stuff and then get the podcast and everything. That's we're relaunching that probably next week. So I've just finished off a whole brand new website from the ground up.
Oh, you've been busy.
Oh, amazing work!
Oh,
all that coding,
Mr. Digital, you are.
Well, actually, someone else did it, but anyway, it's coming out looking good, and so this year we're going to be able to do lots of new things, so which is good. And I'm going to try and work out a way to keep as much of it on the site and away from paywalls and stuff, because you all complain when it's behind paywalls.
Yeah.
So
there's going to be lots of interesting stuff on there. So yeah, keep.
But I might be coming and asking you all for money.
Yeah. Oh, there's nothing wrong with begging.
Give me some money.
We'll just move down to Flinders Street.
Yeah, Flinders Street stations are a great place to beg for. Now, yesterday, we're recording this on Thursday. Yesterday caught my eye. They had the big AFL launch of the women's AFL. AFL
women's.
And I think it's just women's AFL.
Women's AFL.
And I imagine there's a big debate about whether there should be apostrophe and all that sort of thing.
And the logo, whether the point posts tilted to the right or to the left.
Yeah, and because they couldn't call it the waffle.
No, that's taken.
The Western Australians get a bit sensitive about picking off their brand they've had for 100 years.
Football League for Australian women had a basic flaw to it as well.
There was a few. Well, they were going to call it, the reason they called it Women's AFL is they were going to call it Australian Women's Football League, which looks like awful. And so they went, well, let's avoid that.
I think they've made the right decision eventually.
You think they have?
Yeah, they struggle sometimes, the AFL, but I think they got that one right.
Now, the launch looked really good. It looked like the energy around this is...
Around women's football in general.
Is the amount of, more than the AFL really ever predicted, I think.
I agree
Even
with that.
they are a bit like, oh, hang on, we've
I
gone to
agree with
something.
that. I picked up the Herald Sun yesterday and there was like a lift out with the photos and personal stats of every player in the league. And I thought the amount of publicity and promotion this is getting is fabulous for the league, but it's just good all round. I mean, if there's been somebody orchestrating the whole publicity campaign, they've done a great job. But
they've gone and got a good marketing company.
I know they have, but I think the media as well has leapt on board and supported it. So
but I think the public
there is a bit of a buzz.
I think the public
has.
The public have been behind it. So everyone, and so that and you do. We don't like to give credit to people who do good jobs on this podcast. It's not really the forum for it.
Especially not if they're connected with the AFL.
But one thing that gets often forgotten about this is Demetrio sat on his hands around women's football, had no interest.
I don't reckon he was ever going to.
No interest.
He was
because he was worried it wouldn't make money, and that's where he came into it. And he was too busy trying to cover up the Essendon scandal. So basically,
and he did want to go into the education system where you can rort, or allegedly rort potential students.
So he, so it never happened. Now when Gillen came in, he bought it for the launch. By so you got to say he's done well to do that. Like, he read the mood pretty well, and to bring it forward, they owe a lot to him doing that, you know, like...
They have, and it all kicks off on Friday. And you think about it, there's been talk of women's footy getting around for a few years, but I'm involved in a junior footy club where my two boys play.
Is that the Melbourne Football Club? Oh, wait, technically they're a professional team.
But this is an amateur junior football club, properly. They've been talking about it for a few years, and I know a lot of the clubs in these junior leagues around Victoria and what have you, they've all had an interest with girls' footy, and our club tried to get it up a couple of years ago, but all the clubs were finding there was interest, but they were struggling to get the numbers to put one or two teams together.
Yeah.
Whereas now, this year, if you're a junior club and you don't have a couple of girls' teams, you stand out. It is absolutely captured the imagination, which to a degree that I think has surprised a lot of people.
Oh,
do you reckon there's going to be any backlash to it? Do you think people are going to watch it and go, oh, hang on?
I've got a prediction that what will happen is, because they've rushed it forward without a sort of... They've gone straight to having this top-tier professional league without... The alternative would have taken a lot longer, but to sponsor a lower level competition, build that up, build up the pipeline of talent, so they've rushed this a bit. So I think it's going to be massively patchy. I think you're going to have some players who are legitimately good, but you're going to have a lot who so I think it's going to, and so I think there might be a bit of pushback from some people. There's already a bunch of people who are already like, bagging it already.
This will be no good,
But this is a bit like, it's going to take, I think we're 5 years away from it really starting to click on the field, but that doesn't mean, I'm hopeful I'm really wrong.
It's a bit like women's cricket in that regard. That was a novelty act there 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Whereas now, you just assume women's BBL or women's test cricket, and you watch them play, geez, they can bat and bowl. Don't worry about that. I've seen a couple of those girls in the nets, and you would not want to be down the other end if you didn't know how to bat.
Oh no. So that's the thing. I think it will pick up really. You have to kind of have it. You're better to start it and not be perfect, but then you'll get this wave of support at the lower levels, and it will start to pick up and all that. It's just heartening to know that a young girl out there, maybe 4 years, 5 years old, can go to sleep tonight dreaming of one day on national television running right through an opponent and laying them out. Dropping
the shoulder.
Yeah.
Or just lining them up Mark Yates style from one side of the square.
And I said this the other day, like, with the commentators being able to go, be a few weeks for that one. The match review panel will have a good look at that. And that's what women now have available to them. And I think that's a quality.
It is. Although I do have a sneaking or little secret sort of regret that they didn't go down the lingerie league style.
You just knew that was probably
like the NFL.
One of the marketers was going, what about this?
What about the lingerie thing's gone really well with American football?
Oh, I think the AFL have done very well to actually avoid a bunch of pitfalls on the way to this.
Yeah.
But what we've said before is we're really looking forward to the equality of when the female commentators one day talk about drowning a male journalist. And when you open Confidential in the Herald Sun and there's the boyfriends and husbands of the women players all just there, all like, doing some modelling.
I want to see, your Daisy Pearces of the world suddenly walking the red carpet at their best and fairest.
Put on a rotisserie.
With some good-looking bloke who has nothing to say.
Yeah, and they go...
nice suit, mate.
Yeah, all they say to the bloke is, and who dressed you tonight?
Yeah,
I
Tony
dressed
Bianco.
myself.
Yeah,
so, now the one thing I'm incredibly upset about, though, is we're getting so much coverage of the Women's League.
Yeah.
And look at us kicking off the whole podcast with it. I'm a bit sick and tired of male footballs not getting the recognition they deserve, or the AFL needs to launch a men's league. As a white male, when are we going to get some recognition in the football world? Ability to talk and things like that. It's been terrible.
We're being pushed sideways. And not just us, as you say, the players, the clubs.
Oh.
I mean, it is time. It is time, surely.
We'll get our day in the sun one day. Us white men.
We've had enough of the chicks already. They haven't even bounced the ball yet.
No, I am.
I'm really looking forward to watching a couple of games
Well,
this week. I don't think it's going to be, as you say. I think the game's going to be a bit patchy. But
so is real AFL. We've watched Melbourne play for a decade, so
exactly. You watch Brisbane versus Melbourne. I'll give you patchy.
But I've got my women's team membership for Melbourne. So
he's not lying. I saw this the other week.
I've got it right here somewhere.
He's actually got
here it is.
Yeah.
And so I went and put my money where my mouth is.
Same cost as the
I
men's
don't
club?
I don't look at the price of things.
You get someone to do it for you.
I just said to the butler, get me one of these.
Get me one of them red and blue cards.
Yeah. Fill this form out and send it off.
You know my bank account details and
That's right.
my credit card number.
So who knows? It was probably a couple of grand.
You didn't even get a scarf.
I don't know what I've got here a very nice get to know the women of your newest recruits.
Right.
And it's got Mel Hickey and Melissa Hickey and Daisy Pearce on the front. And then it runs through all the players, and it's got the draw on the back. Now, the only problem with following Melbourne's women team is they play at Casey Fields a lot, which for most Melbourne supporters, that might as well be. I mean, we think going to Etihad
is hideous.
Is like going to the jungle.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Casey Fields?
Yeah. I went out I've been out for a couple of pre-seasons.
Yeah, I went to
It's not a bad ground. The surface is magnificent.
And the facilities around it. I mean, there's tennis courts, there's gyms, there's pools.
But it's
great.
Far.
But geez, it's a long way.
Yeah.
Civilization.
My chauffeur was exhausted.
Had to stop at the bottle shop twice on the way home.
That's when you know someone's far.
You want to travel, I'm not going to need more than one.
So, but there's a lot of games that... There's a few games at night, but then they've got one game that's against Carlton at Casey Fields at 11:35 a.m. on a Saturday. So I reckon that's good because kids will be able to actually go to it.
Yep.
And it fits in. It goes from, I'm just looking at the Melbourne draw, but this is roughly the times. It sort of goes from February to mid-March.
Yeah. It's fairly short
end of
season,
March,
isn't it? Yeah.
But it fits in beautifully to that after the tennis.
Yeah.
When there's not a lot to do.
After the tennis, before the footy starts.
So anyway, that's the women's league.
Yeah, women's league. Good luck to them. They start this week.
We're in. We're all for it.
Very interested to see how they pan
I watch
out.
any sport though, so I'm an easy sell for these things.
So Friday night we're watching Carlton Collingwood, the girls.
Yep.
And
well, no, this is the women.
No,
this is the women.
That isn't that what I said?
So that should be it should be good, and we'll definitely watch that. And Melbourne's first game's against Brisbane, so that's going to be
patchy at best.
So when Melbourne get belted, I'll have lost all my enthusiasm for it.
Well, they did get belted by Carlton the other week in the practice match.
Oh, they did, and I thought, wow, now I've got a whole other forum to watch Melbourne losing. Thank God we didn't get a netball team. Now,
what else is going on?
I know you've been fascinated by this, all in on this, and this is the Anthony Mundine Danny Green fight.
Oh, yeah.
This is the fight we didn't need to have.
And that's coming up pretty soon, isn't it?
It's Friday night.
It's Friday night.
It's up against the women's...
Head-to-head against the women's footy.
So I'll know what I'll be watching.
Oh,
Can you... have you got any interest in this at all? I had no interest in the original one, except I was hoping to see Mundine get clocked.
That's the only interest I have. I'm not that interested that I'd actually pay to watch it, mind you. I would go to a bar that has it on. But what I found with these pay-per-view things, it says it starts at 7. But, of course, the Mundine fight, you have to watch 6 other dodgy, useless fights before that.
Yeah.
But, my only interest is to hopefully see Danny Green punch the living suitcase out of Mundine.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not Robinson Crusoe there. The whole of Australia wants that, I think.
I think so. I don't think many, really... But Anthony Mundine's come out and just to add his own spin to it all, they've booked to sing the national anthem, Jessica Mauboy, because I think that's mandated in legislation now that
she has to do all sporting events. used to be Julie Anthony, but she's getting a bit long in the tooth.
I opened an envelope the other day and there was Jessica Mauboy.
And Rhonda Birchmore had handed it to you.
Now, Mundine's come out and said that while Mauboy sings Advance Australia Fair, He said that he won't be First, he said he's not going to stand up
Yeah, he was
for
gonna
it. He's going to
sit
sit
down
down
for it.
because it's a racist anthem.
Yeah.
He then declared that he does not even want to be present, and instead he's going, or subject to the crowd's reaction, which will be booing him. And he's going to instead stay in the change room.
Right.
So until it's finished.
His headphones on, listening to a bit of non-racist
Something.
gangster rap.
Well, that's right. Who knows? Like, it's hard to find good non-racist music these days. I've always said. Now, anyway, he said that. He said that the reason for this decision, it's based around honesty search.
Of course it is.
And I know you're
It's not flagging ticket sales or something that needs publicity.
and you're a huge fan of honesty, always have been. He said, I didn't really want to talk about it, the anthem.
Really? He hasn't shut up about it for the last 2 weeks.
I love that. I didn't really want to talk about it,
Yeah.
but then goes on a half-hour discussion of it.
Yeah.
He said, I didn't really want to talk about it, but a good friend of mine asked the question, he said. And I'm an honest dude, a straight shooter. This is Mundine still. I can't stand for something that's racist. Well, we're all with him there.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's advocating.
Except for racists.
Yeah.
Most of us are anti-racists. Unfortunately, there seems to be a lot of racists around at the moment. So, but I'm all with him there. So far, I'm with him. He said, Advance Australia Fair, when it's really... He says, Advance Australia Fair, he said... It's when it's really Advance Australia White. That's what he's saying, the meaning of it. He's saying it's more about advancing Australia white, not fair. It's not fair.
So
it
doesn't mean fair as in right or wrong. He means fair in colour. Like a...
That's right.
So you can
I don't think he's thought about it that cleverly.
Advance Australia Fair or Advance Australia
it's
White.
It's not advancing us all together.
It's like a Dulux colour card kind of thing.
So he said that it's Advance Australia White, the song. Now, just to jump in here, I agree both with Mundine that we don't like racism. So, I think he and I have found mutual ground there. I can also join him on the fact that Advance Australia Fair is a terrible anthem. I'm not saying it's necessarily racist. It's not. It's very white. It's the most white,
it's a pretty
song ever.
Kind of song.
It's just a terrible song. So I'm all with him there.
If you go to a state primary school these days, they play it every Monday morning, but they have a didgeridoo behind it.
See, the thing for me is...
Yeah, didgeridoo or something.
This gets back to Australia Day. Yeah, well, that's right. You put didgeridoo in, it's fine.
It's fine.
It just cleanses whatever it is. But the thing about it is, like, it's like Australia Day. Like, what are we doing making the kids listen to Advanced Stage for every morning? It's not America.
No.
We're not America. Like,
I should be singing
not
K-San.
knowing the words of Advanced Australia Fair is actually the most Australian thing you can do. And every now and then I've bumped into someone who goes, oh, I bet you don't know the words to the second verse. I do. And I'm like, I'm damn proud I don't know the words to the first verse. Yeah, that's right. If someone tried to teach them to me.
Although I can do K-San from beginning to end.
Well, of course you can. That's
full of ink.
Now, he then says... This is Mundine, back to Mundine. He said, I'm about uniting and bringing people together.
Oh, easy. That's a first.
I was basically with him up to this point.
Yeah,
like,
you're
I
starting
didn't
to lose me here.
Yeah, I don't think Advanced Australia Fair is particularly a racist song in its, in its words. I just think it's a terrible song. And I'm quite happy to say it's outdated and doesn't really represent a modern Australia. But, but I'm going with him up to that point. But the idea that he's a uniter and bringing together of people... is kind of,
Sorry, Anthony.
He says he's about living in peace, encouraging living in peace and harmony. And he says the First Nation are disrespected by the anthem and throw the flag in there. Somebody's got to say something. Now, throw the flag in there. Well, the flag's got the British flag on it.
It does. Of course it does.
It's just weird that we've stuck with a country that we beat so regularly in sport and have shown us our physical and mental superiority to on such a regular basis.
Yeah, I'm very surprised we've never got ourselves a new flag.
How's the boxing kangaroo on our flag? It's simple.
Yes.
Everyone loves it. Everyone loves that guy.
Yeah. Boxing kangaroo, boxing gloves. Surely Anthony Mundine is like the boxing kangaroo.
That's
right. Would he stand up and walk into the arena if they had the boxing kangaroo flag and a bit of timey kangaroo down sport.
Well, no, that's got a lot of...
very racist, actually.
Well, not racist. That's very... it's very wrong now.
Yeah. That's probably the wrong one.
I don't know what song you go for a national anthem. Like, what's the,
Oh, you've got to be... It'd be nearly impossible to do these days because it would have to be written from scratch. And while Advanced Australia Fair has that typical good melody, that sort of anthemic melody that works well when it's just played as an instrumental, but for someone to write the words these days, could you imagine? You're trying to please everybody these days.
Also, like, you look at people often say waltzing Matilda, but then you say, well, a white guy stealing a sheep, it's not really representative of all Australians there anyway. Yeah. Given the protagonist is,
and then he shoots a cop.
Yeah, which people frown on.
Yeah.
In the main.
Yeah. and have done so since Ned Kelly was hung at the old Melbourne jail.
So, yeah, having a song, you got to say, though, if there's one man that could fix all this overnight, it's Mike Brady.
Of course. You
get Mike Brady on the case and it's he'd problem solved.
He'd knock it over in a night.
He'd do it live on air. We'd get him on the podcast. Say,
he would
write a new anthem for us. Get the boxing kangaroo.
I mean, he did the SPC baked beans and spaghetti. Took him 2 hours to write that.
Just tweak the words to that. So, well, look, the thing I think is that Anthony, he tends to be, by the force of his personality, not do even good causes a great deal of help. If he rang you, you were trying to like promote something, or a cause or something, whatever the cause was, and you were like getting some good media on it, and then he said, "I'm going to come out and you support." You say, "No,
pretty right, thanks."
Let's just keep you back until we really need you.
Yeah. So I mean, well, let's just hope. Let's hope it's a good fight on Friday night.
I couldn't care less about that
fight. Couldn't care less fight.
I'm shocked that people...
I want to watch it.
Yeah.
I do want to watch it, but I refuse to pay for it.
It's
a bit like Wayne Carey's book. I'd read it, but I wouldn't buy it at a bookshop,
Now, this is a story I'm sure you can relate to, Serge, this one.
What are you saying?
Kyle Lovett, who plays in the NRL for the West Tigers, he went out last week and he went to the Ivy nightclub. Right. So we've got the beginnings of a terrific story.
Yeah. One of your premier Sydney night spots.
You got the Ivy nightclub and an NRL player. So you can almost... It's just connect the dots now.
Yeah.
Now, my favourite thing is, this is the opening line. I think this was from the Daily Telly story. Kyle Lovett's night on the town started at the Ivy nightclub and ended in an alley being strip searched by police.
And who hasn't been there in that situation?
What a cliche. Now, it says here, officers questioned the West Tigers forward while he was sitting at the wheel of a black Mercedes-Benz near the Star Casino in Piermont at 1:20am on December 23. So this was actually not, it was just before Christmas, but it's only come out this week. So sitting in there, Star Casino's in there too. So we've got Ivy nightclub and Star Casino. So there's a...
And 1:20 means beyond the curfew.
Well, the only place that's exempt, I think, from the lock-in or lock-out, or whichever way you see it, is the casino. Yeah. Isn't that a lovely thing? What a surprise that the casino is... They don't have a lot of political power, though, that they have been exempt from this law. So anyway, police pulled him over in an area known to be used for drug deals.
That'd be the alley, would it?
Well, I was going to say that would be Sydney. Is that sort of, that sort of thing? Now, anyway, it says known to be used for drug deals, and they noticed he was sweating profusely.
Right.
Now, he could have just had a big kebab. We don't know, but anyway. And he was clenching his jaw. According to a statement of facts before the Downing Centre local court, they found white powder in the driver's seat and footwell.
So he's messy.
That's careless.
What a waste.
Waste of cocaine. Yeah. And the passenger side footwell as well. Before taking Lovett into an alcove to strip search him.
So an alcove in the alley.
It's like...
Getting messy.
Then they asked if he had... Then they asked him, so they obviously didn't fully strip search him. They said to him, "Do you have any drugs? Sir, do you have any drugs in your underwear?" And he said, "I'll be honest with you, I do." Now, how often would you have cocaine in your underwear?
Oh, I know. It's crack cocaine. It wasn't crack cocaine that they found, was it?
Did the policeman say, is that cocaine in your underwear, or are you just happy to see me? To which he said, why can't it be both?
He's keeping a bag of cocaine in his underpants.
Yeah.
Is that where the phrase numbnuts comes from? How does he snort it? I don't even want to know how he was snorting it.
You know, you got a problem with drugs, with anything, if, you know, to kind of hide it from people, you're putting it down your underwear.
Yeah.
That's when I knew I was eating too many buffalo wings. When I started stashing them in my jocks. I went, you know, this hot sauce is not a good idea. I know I've got a problem.
He was sweating profusely.
Oh, yeah. Officers found a small bag of cocaine in his underpants and charged him with possessing about 0.39 grams of the drug. Now, is that one of the few times in life where you're happy that they've said, well, something that they've found in your underwear is small?
Yeah. That's probably about $100 worth.
Yeah, it's 0.39 grams. I reckon he goes, oh, come on, it's a bit bigger than that. Could you up it a bit?
That's not a foot. It's about 7 inches.
I don't know, and being truly, and being the fact that I can tell you right down to the thing of, you know, anything to do with whiskey, I have no idea about cocaine. It's never been a drug or of choice of mine. So is it 0.39 grams of the drug anything much or not? Like I'm asking you, like you would know.
Yeah, like I know. Well, actually,
only because you're snorting it as we do the podcast.
Absolutely, and I'm clenching my jaw and sweating profusely, and my face is covered in
white
powder.
So I don't know if that's considered a lot.
Well, normally they sell it by the gram.
Right.
You know, so that's less than half a gram. So
he's used a bit.
So he's had a good crack at it and spilled half it down the doorwell, obviously.
Now, police also found a blue and white MDMA capsule, which is ecstasy.
That's your ecstasy.
On the road under the car, but Lovett told them that he said, I don't touch the stuff.
Right. So he likes a bit of the coke, but he's not a pill popper, is what he's saying.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, hiding it in his underpants. And it's not just that that's an interesting place that he hid it, is that he quite openly said, when the cop said to him, do you have any drugs in your underpants? He goes, I'll be honest with you, I do.
I know. But I guess
no, sir, no.
I guess he thought if he said no, that's when they would actually...
They'd have a good look.
They'd have a good look. To keep honesty's the best policy at that stage. Keep a bunch of police out of your underpants. So anyway,
especially in a back alley in Sydney.
I know. So he's he'd appear before court and he'll get a small fine or something.
Yeah.
I didn't even know cocaine was illegal in Sydney.
It's certainly not at the Ivy nightclub.
That's right. I think that like Star City is exempt from the lock-in, I think
Coke's exempt at the Ivy.
Now, Royal, staying in Sydney, the only city you like outside of Melbourne in Australia, they're going to now host the richest thoroughbred race on turf with the introduction of the $10 million called the race is going to be called the Everest. To be run at Royal Randwick during October. It's going to be a sprint, so it's
1,200 metres.
1,200 metres.
Straight up and down.
And the 10 million race it's going to be on October 14 during Sydney's Spring Carnival. Now, the $10 million prize money will replace the Melbourne Cup, which is a prize money of $6.2 million, as the nation's richest race. The only races with more prize money in the world are the US $12 million Pegasus World Cup run in Florida, which I know you've trained and won horses there.
I had a couple of good nags.
And the US $10 million Dubai World Cup.
Having a crack at that next year.
Now, both of those, what's the name of your horse? The Anthony Rocker Solution?
The Anthony Rocker Solution.
Or the Norwegian girlfriend?
I've got the Norwegian girlfriend. I'm in a syndicate with Racetrack Ralphie. We're trying to get things up for the Anthony Rocker Solution.
Now, it says here that both of those races, though, in the Northern Hemisphere are run on dirt tracks, not grass. Yeah. So this is the highest paying one on grass. And it's going to be run under the famous Royal Randwick wait for age conditions. Now, you once explained what wait for age means in horse racing.
I had no idea, and then it was explained to me, and it's actually fairly simple. Wait for age means that the horse carries a certain weight according to what age it is.
Wow.
So if it's a 2-year-old, it carries, I don't know, 47 kilos.
Does it carry
if it's a
0.39 grams of cocaine?
in its underpants. I tell you, this Royal Randwick thing, the Everest, and there's a lot of talk about whether it's going to work or not, because you don't just enter your horse in it and hope for the best. You've got to put in 3 lots of $600,000.
So that's how they're going to raise the money.
That's how they're going to raise the money. You put in 3 lots of $600,000, which is 1.8 million, to enter your horse into the race. And this will go over 3 years, sort of thing, right? 3 different races. And so, if in the first year you put down your $600,000 for the first race, and then you think, geez, the Norwegian girlfriend has got no chance.
Yeah,
like Wix is running.
You still have to pay the other.
Or you can sell.
So you're basically buying a slot.
You're buying a slot in the race, but you can sell that on to another owner. But the thing is, there's not as many wealthy racehorse owners as you might think there are getting around Australia. I mean, you hear about it at the Melbourne Cup every year that, the Sheikh Abdul, what's his name, out from Dubai, who owns 700 thoroughbreds.
Yeah.
They're pretty few and far between on the ground. Your Lloyd Williams, there's only one Lloyd Williams. The vast majority of racehorse owners in Australia, especially sprinters, 1,200 metre sprinters, they're just syndicate blokes. Like you get in with 30 of your mates and you all, put in a few $100 or a few grand. I don't reckon it's going to work for that reason. You're really experts in your horse flesh, and your real trainers are going to say to your owners, look, I just don't know whether it's worth doing.
I'm not funding the prize money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for $1.8 million just to get your horse on the track, good luck with that.
Do you think this will mean that the Melbourne Cup will have to put up its prize money?
No, they won't. I think they'll just stick with tradition and maintain itself, as... will the Everest, will that be the race that stops a nation?
Well, the thing is, it's a sprint, and there's been a lot of good sprinters come out of Australia recently.
Yeah,
so they'll have some
black caviar or a
horses
or something
that will be possibly in it.
Yeah,
I think it will go well.
Oh, there'll certainly be a lot of interest in it. But if it gets up,
if it goes well, the Melbourne Cup will have no choice. I think, because they'll want to remain. They want to remain the.
You know what they should do if they really want it to fly? Monkey jockey.
With the horses on ice.
Yeah, the horses on ice. Get all the horses on ice and whack a chimp on their back.
Fix it straight away.
Now you're talking, I'd pay the $600 to watch that.
Now, Dustin Martin has done his fairly regularly, maybe every 3 years this happens.
He does it, doesn't he?
Come out, and his manager, Ralph Carr, who always seems to win a lot of friends whenever he does a negotiation, has said that... basically, Dustin's putting on hold any contract talks until later in the year, which was news to Richmond. Yeah. Richmond came out, and Neil Bum and Daniel Richard, they said, "Oh, well, we understand that it's that's not the case, but okay," and thought they were still discussing things in good faith.
Yeah.
So, this happened last year. Remember when last time it happened, where there was all that talk of him? He actually went and visited GWS.
That's right.
Was it
GWS or the Gold Coast?
GWS.
It was GWS. Yeah, he went up and toured it and the whole thing.
Yeah, and then Richmond eventually signed him.
And Ralph.
And apparently Dustin Martin himself doesn't want to leave.
No. But there is talk that if the Tigers have another shocker this year, he will entertain his free agency options, perhaps.
Well, see, this is the thing.
Why wouldn't you?
Why would you... I don't understand with the other clubs, though. I know someone will, but it's almost like I'm waiting. What's this club that's silly enough to spend a fortune to get Dustin Martin? I mean, he's a great player in many ways, but the spending, you kind of go, well, there's a lot that comes with it. Change of environment.
There's plenty of baggage with Dustin Martin. And then, you don't quite know what you're going to get.
He can do amazing things. Like, I'm not saying he's not a, great player in many ways, but I think he's overvalued a little bit. I don't know, at times,
he's coming off a good season.
He played.
He had a ripper last year, so that any player, if you come off a good season, that sort of ups your value, and people tend to forget the downside.
Yeah, But it seems to once again we're going around in circles on the Dustin, so that'll be a fun thing for this year.
Will.
Who else is putting off? There's a few that are going to put off contract talks, and we'll have all that fun all throughout the year.
Yeah.
Is it too early to start wondering if Jesse Hogan's going back to Fremantle?
Oh, well,
he did sign a full 6 months ago.
He
almost
signed
now.
until the end of 2019, but that's not to say.
Well, there's talk about Patrick Cripps maybe going to Perth.
A straight swap for Nat 5.
What nonsense! They've come out and slammed that. And
I had a guy say to me last year, as one of these guys who's in the know at Melbourne Footy Club. He knows what's going on behind the scenes. He said, I can tell you what's going to happen. Jesse Hogan's going to Freo.
Yeah.
Nat 5's coming to Melbourne. I said, really? He goes, trust me. Yeah, right, eh? So
I just love how often, and this is a very Melbourne thing, how often you get people say things like that, but they'll go, my mate, and they barely ever name the mate.
Yeah.
My mate,
his
missus knows the wife of the trainer that used to work at Melbourne, and he says, and you go, really?
Who used to play for Monash Blues with him when they were at uni 30 years ago.
Yeah. You go, nah, that's not a source.
On the upside, it's been a long while since Melbourne have had a player that the whole rest of the competition would actually want.
Yeah, that's true.
Jesse Hogan.
Now, in a sign that the apocalypse is closer than it seems,
right?
The AFL trialled zones. This is the idea that they keep bringing up that drives me mad, which is certain players have to stay in certain areas at certain points of the game to free up congestion.
Yes.
The AFL have been dying of... Australian rules as a sport have been dying of congestion since its birth. Yeah. We've been fighting a war against congestion. This is the dumbest idea I've heard. So the idea would be, like, say, all the forwards and all defenders, a certain amount had to be back in their own 50
and
zones.
Midfielders, only so many people in that midfield.
Yeah,
look, they do it in under 8s, 9s and 10s.
Yeah.
And the kids hate it.
Yeah.
The kids hate it. And at that level, because what they do at junior footy is they all have armbands, like red for the forwards, yellow for the mids, and blue for the backs. And it penalises the good players, and the kids just run through anyway. So if it doesn't work at under 9 level, what makes you think it's going to work at superstar level?
It's just ridiculous. Now, what they did is they actually trialled this with St Kilda.
Did St Kilda get a choice in this? Or did Mark Evans just turn up and say, by the way, this is what we're doing?
Well, it says here that it was overseen by the football's general manager of football, Mark Evans.
Is this before he quits and goes back to Hawthorn?
He's believed to. What he did is they went to training, and it was agreed with St Kilda to do it, and umpire's boss Hayden Kennedy was also there. And what they did is they showed up, and they said it fitted in with St Kilda's training schedule and everything, which makes you wonder what is St Kilda doing.
Do they have a schedule down there?
I won't criticise St Kilda because they are on the rise and they seem to know what they're doing, and they belt Melbourne every time we play them, so I'm not going to get on there. You do wonder, like, why would you have zones? Like, what is the... I thought this year, the game actually, or last season, was a really good season, and I thought the game flowed really well. I thought some of the rules they did bring in, like the interchange cap being lower and various things, I thought... and they get rid of the sub and all that.
The deliberate out of bounds, even though there were a few
interpretation issues, but overall, I thought it actually was a really entertaining season. Now, the problem the AFL has, in my view, is not least tinkering with rules, is the fact that they have too many teams, and that bringing in GWS and Gold Coast diluted the playing pool considerably. And so if you have two bad teams playing, or, it's a terrible sport.
Spectacle.
But that's like any sport.
But see, with testing the zones at St Kilda, I thought they'd forgotten about that, the AFL.
Oh, so did I.
They'd written it off. They'd said, somebody brought it up a year or two ago, and I think even Lee Matthews talked it up. Or
John Worsfold turned it up. He was on the that board, the rules of the game committee.
But I thought they'd looked at that and said, that ain't going to happen. Obviously, they're looking at still a possibility of doing so.
Yeah, they want to do it.
They never will. The coaches, the players, it just won't work.
They love complexity.
Oh.
If they can make something more complex and difficult to
more stripes on the field than a basketball court, the way they're going.
Can you just imagine, like, there's a great out of the middle at a centre break, someone bursts through the pack, like Mickey McGuan style, someone kicks an amazing goal, and then the umpire blows the whistle and goes, "No, there was a guy with his leg over the 50-metre back at the other end of the ground."
Yeah.
And it's going to be, really?
Or if they go to the extent they have, as I mentioned the junior footy, like, I haven't seen this happen, but technically it could, is you have a player in under 10s who is a very good little player. He's naturally playing in the midfield. The ball goes up, it hits the ground, he picks it up, he dodges and weaves, he takes 3 bounces and then kicks a goal. The umpire can bring it back and say, "No, you crossed that line between the centres, the midfields and the forwards. That goal doesn't count." Come back and they pay a free kick to the other team on the line. And
this goes against everything that's natural.
Yeah.
This is the devil's work.
Yeah. Which means they will probably bring it in.
It's going to happen. Now, an entertaining little spat this week that I've been watching and happening in America, and it's not Donald Trump ringing Malcolm Turnbull, which apparently was a train wreck of a phone call.
Apparently that didn't go quite as well as Malcolm led us to believe.
We get Lee Matthews to ring Donald back. Seriously. Anyway.
Like, I'd love to hear Lee Matthews ring Donald Trump.
Oh, who'd be the... No, you know who I'd get to ring Donald Trump?
Who?
Alistair Clarkson.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, the angry Clarko?
An angry Clarko. But Lee Matthews, his voice had let him down a bit too.
The Clarko, imagine Clarko getting talked to like that. Oh, it would not have... Anyway, so in America
who's
at the moment...
Fighting?
So... LeBron James, basketball, you might have heard of him, greatest basketballer on the planet at the moment, and some people argue up there or as good as Jordan.
Yep.
He has been criticised by Charles Barkley, former Philadelphia 76er and Phoenix
Good player
Suns.
in his own right.
Hall of Fame, I think Barkley is.
Yeah, if he's not, he certainly will be.
Played at Auburn in college. He criticised LeBron James because LeBron James came out and said to Cavaliers management that he needed some help via the trade market, so go get me some better players. And Barkley came out and said that it was inappropriate, whiny, all of the above. The Cleveland Cavaliers have already given him everything he wanted. And James has responded and said, and this is all in the media they've done that, he's a hater. What makes what he says credible because he's on TV?
Can I read out his next bit? This is what LeBron James said. About Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let him disrespect my legacy like that. I'm not the one who threw somebody through a window. I never spit on a kid. I never had unpaid debt in Las Vegas. I never said I'm not a role model. I never showed up to All-Star Weekend on Sunday because I was in Vegas all weekend partying. All I've done for my entire career is represent the NBA the right way. 14 years, never got into trouble. Respected the game. That's a fair whack.
Yeah, that's right.
That's not a bad whack back. That's better than Trevor Holmes getting into Cameron White.
Oh, yeah. He then said, and if you... And it says...
Can I just say, as far as I know, Cameron White has never spit on a kid either.
Not to our knowledge.
No.
But then,
unpaid debt in Vegas, yeah.
When it comes to those things, I say... Those in glass houses. Now, LeBron went on to say about Barkley, he said, if this makes him want to talk to me, the schedule's out there. He knows every road arena I'll be in. Don't just come up to me at the All-Star game and shake my hand and smile. Screw Charles Barkley. I'm tired of biting my tongue. There's a new sheriff in town.
It's
really gone off.
See, not too many sports people can get away with there's a new sheriff in town.
That's right.
LeBron probably can. But that's the sort of thing. I think that's what Shannon Knoll said when he was trying to get to that nightclub, that strip club too. He's a new sheriff in town.
Now, Charles Oakley, who used to play at the same time Barkley did, and so was a bit of an adversary on the court, he came out after LeBron's thing and tweeted, I love everything LeBron James said about the hater. He needs to stop drinking at work. So it's really escalated.
He needs to stop drinking at work. That's as good a whack as you can get. I mean, but on the other hand, That would make things very difficult for a lot of people.
You and I wouldn't get through this podcast if we weren't allowed to drink.
No, exactly.
Oh, so anyway, that's a bit of fun. I like that one.
That is an absolute cracker, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this pans out because the one thing about these big basketballers, they don't hold back on the verbal, that's obvious, but sometimes they don't hold back on the physical either. So if they do run into each other...
Yeah, but the NBA fights are always... There's been a few real ones, but a lot of them are like, hold me back.
Yeah, there's a bit of that.
Why isn't someone holding me back?
Unless their eye pops out of the socket.
Oh, God. Now, it's just staying with our last thing, but staying with American sports. The Super Bowl is on Monday. And
I love the Super Bowl. You going to watch it?
I always watch it, yeah. Now, what I love about the Super Bowl... more than anything else, apart from the game itself and everything, is just, I like to call it in Australia, it's the day everyone goes the tonk on the AFL's grand final entertainment. Yeah. Regardless of the game itself, they all just suddenly... It starts happening. You
see how brilliantly they do it.
Yeah.
And like last year,
they spend like about $10 million on it when the AFL spends like not even $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, last year they had... who was it? They had Coldplay, Beyonce, and Bruno Mars.
Yeah. And who they got this year? They got
Lady Gaga.
Just Lady Gaga.
I think she's going solo, but you'd expect she'd have a fair bit of production.
The Americans have won a lot more money too. It's in America.
Yeah.
And it's got an audience of like a billion people around the world.
Big stars
so you're gonna,
just there.
Yeah.
Performers. And, we have to import Sting to do his crappy new song,
That was terrible.
And The Living End.
The thing about Sting is he wasn't even terrible. He was just himself, but it was just the wrong thing for the day.
Exactly. You couldn't fault Sting, his performance or his attitude or anything.
Yeah.
But as you say, it was just Sting.
I much prefer the train wreck.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of want the AFL one to be an absolute train wreck. And the AFL stuff up everything, because what about when this year they had the... the 100-metre sprint.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And it was won by an amateur.
Yeah.
So it's not even...
Won by a bloke with a beer gut who plays in
in
the South Australian Amateur League.
It's not even just for the AFL stars anymore. They don't even get that right anymore. The whole thing is just like...
But this year, whether it's this year or next where they go with the Twilight Grand Final, they'll say, this is how we're just going to up the ante on the pre-match and the halftime
on the fireworks, that's all they're going to be able to add.
Because we'll be able to turn a few lights down.
Yeah.
But it'll still be a shocker.
But the atmosphere at that Bulldogs victory last year was one of the best atmospheres I've ever experienced at a sporting event. And I've been to Stanley Cup in America, I've been to college football, all these, great sports. And they've all had, and some of them have been amazing, the atmosphere and stuff, but the atmosphere was amazing, and it was all based around the game. The halftime entertainment was so irrelevant to everyone at that ground.
They don't get it
because it was close. Everyone was like, the Bulldog supporters were just freaking out; they were going to lose. The Hawthorn supporters were like,
well, I remember back 10 years ago when West Coast and Sydney played those two grand finals back to back.
Yeah.
And West Coast won by a point and then Sydney won by a point.
Yeah.
I was at both of those games and both were the same. Yeah. The last quarter, it was just pulsating. You could not hear yourself think.
Yeah.
And you don't even know who was on that time. I think one of them, they just had a DJ set up in the middle of the MCG, which is probably all it needs.
Well, I just think you get the kids forming big letters and things like they used to in the 80s. The school kids with sheets and spinning around. It was terrible.
Or 200 goal umpires marching to the Blues Brothers.
That's what you want.
You want something really lame. Because, as you say, the footy, when a grand final is an absolute cracker. And there's the odd one that it's not a great game, but when it's a close grand final, and especially last year with the Bulldogs, with the fairy tale, you don't need anything more than the game.
You know what they should do this year for AFL grand final? They should book Shannon Knoll, but then when he shows up at the ground, not let him in.
Don't let him into the G. and then just cut to the outside camera, put it up on the big screen, him going on
Don't
you know who I am? One of those blue coats outside the MCG. I'll show him getting a security wand.
Yeah.
And I'll check his esky, then not let him in.
My favourite bit that I only read a bit after that story break, and it mentioned that, and this is like Australians writ large, right? This is the Australian character writ large. When Shannon Knoll's saying, don't you know who I am, and getting kicked back by the bouncers, not being let in, apparently a bunch of other people who were just in the line waiting and watching this, they all just started singing, "What about me?"
You're right. That is such an Australian thing to do.
Mocking outright, just someone making a goose of themselves.
And even worse, this week, Guy Sebastian came out in his defence.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he came out and he said, no, mate. He said, I've known Knowlesy since we did Australian Idol together, which, by the way, I won, he came second. He said, in all the time I've known him, I've never, ever heard him say, "Do you know who I am?" And I'm thinking, well, he probably wouldn't say that to you, Guy, because you do know who he is.
Yeah, that's right. And if he was with you, he'd have been let in.
Yeah.
That's the big difference, because people know
you're
you
a
are.
winner. You won Australian Idol. And he came second.
That's basically the difference right there. You've answered your own question there, Guy.
All right. Gillen McLaughlin, if you're listening, we've solved your pre-match problem for next year.
All right, well, we'll be back on Monday. So Monday, that's the day of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we can talk our way through the Super Bowl. We might even hold the microphone up to the telly when Lady Gaga's on. You know? Well, that might be a bit too technical for us.
No, very much so. All right, well, we'll see you next week.
See you then.